We are live on YouTube. So here we go with the show, folks. 3, 2, 1. Go. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin, coming to you from my weird factory.
I'm Pete.
And we are live to the internet. We're live to 2 places right now. 3 places, I guess, if you consider, well, we're not live to the podcast necessarily. We're not dead either. You know, I don't know what
Alex,
I'm
really
about.
feeling philosophical right now. I'm live in my home, so that's one place. Pete, as always, is sitting right next to me because we live together. That's a secret.
Yep.
And Alex is upstairs in the beautiful...
In my bunk. I'm in my bunk and I'm hiding because you guys keep beating me up.
We're the Huey, Dewey, and Louie of the Comic Book Podcast.
And as we know, if you are watching on video, we're pantsless, just like them. So it tracks.
Right. It tracks. And we do full body shots like all real performers.
Yeah, here, I'm just going to stand up here. There.
Whoa!
Wow. Chick boys for life.
Yeah, wearing a little Chick Boys for Life t-shirt, Pete, just for you.
Nice.
Chick boys?
Chick boys. What you gotta do? What you gotta do when they come for you?
When the plot moves past you, guys. How are you guys doing? Memorial Day weekend. What's the cocktail du jour?
Ooh, great question. I am drinking a beer.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the sort of like wheat and
school.
hops and like a bunch of stuff. Oh, cool,
yeah,
man.
I will say, this is one of my favorite beers. It's a Ballast Point Sculpin IPA grapefruit. So good.
Bougie.
Very intense IPA. Strong choice.
You know, what I realized is Alvin posts that shit on Twitter. I thought he was being original on our show, but no, he's not.
Wow, wait, what are you referring to specifically?
There's on like Twitter or Facebook or something. You're always taking a picture of your beer before our show, so it's like I always thought it was something original for our show, but it's not.
Alex, what's with this craft beer movement? I felt like that was our thing, and now all of a sudden it's like everywhere. How dare you?
Yeah. Sorry, Pete. I'm sorry I led you down the path that made you believe that I invented beer.
Yeah.
Wait, Pete, what are you drinking?
Alex was a monk in like 13th century Belgium, though.
Yes, I will mention. Well, before you get into it, we do a Riverdale podcast, and Pete got high on Mountain Dew and vodka and wrote a Riverdale poem, which was excellent.
It's a spoken word. It wasn't really a poem. It was more of a spoken word.
Sure. I'm excited to hear what you're drinking tonight. What's going on?
Oh, I'm drinking the Pink Hulk, as I like to call it. It is vodka. It is triple X vitamin water and Gatorade.
Disgusting, dude.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Holy shit. No wonder, man. No wonder.
Yeah, by the end of this, Pete, you're just going to be popping the pipe off of the sink and sucking directly on it.
Every sip you take, though, some of the gray in your beard goes away. I think it's aging.
That's nice.
I'm in honor of our guest today. I'm drinking the official drink of his new comic, The Nailbiter Returns. There's a recipe for this drink in the comic itself, and I made it. And
wow,
it looks like a mustache.
How is it? I mean, we'll
it's
talk about it more when we bring him into the stream, but good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's like a Bloody Mary with pickle juice, which is great.
Awesome. A couple of quick things while we get ready to bring our amazing guests into the stream here. And I'm going to just hit this little invite button. If you're over on YouTube, give us a little thumbs up there. We see you folks over there. Danny, Ali, Bandito 740, everybody else who's watching. Thank you so much. Over on Crowdcast, ask us a question. And here's our guest, Joshua Williamson.
Hey, welcome.
How you doing?
Good?
Yeah, we're good. You can hear us. We can hear you.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't know if you heard this part, but Justin is drinking.
I saw. Yeah, that's awesome. Great. That is awesome. Yeah, it's totally a Bloody Mary.
when you can tell a comic has its shit together when they have a cocktail drink on the title page.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's because Mike and I, whenever we would meet, to live closer to each other than we do now. But whenever we would meet up at a bar to talk out the book, and they totally have this like list of all the drinks and stuff. And I was like, we should make that the title page. That thing right there. Like, there's a reason it opens there's an opening sequence with the eyes, but then the sequence after that is in a bar, because every time we would meet up was always in this bar to like figure out, the plan for what we were gonna do and stuff. So
all great plans happen at bars.
That's true. Yeah, there's definitely been all kinds of stuff on cocktail napkins and stuff like that. But yeah.
Well, Ku, you are ostensibly here to talk about Nailbiter Returns, as we mentioned. That's finally coming back to Image Comics on whatever the Wednesday is, 6/2, 6/3. I'm forgetting dates right now, but it's not tomorrow Wednesday. It's next week Wednesday.
Yeah.
And this was one of our favorite books on the show, so I'm very excited it's back. The short pitch is there's a town where a bunch of serial killers all spontaneously seemed to be there for no particular reason, but of course there's a mystery behind it. There was a huge climax at the end, as bloody as you'd imagine. So what brought you guys back to it now? Why did you literally return to Nailbiter?
We always knew we were going to. There was always sort of this like plan of like, how the big story was going to go, and like how we were going to lay everything out. And it was when even the day that the last issue came out, Mike and I went and got lunch that day. And already we were like, oh, we know all the stuff we're going to do. Like, we already knew the whole plan and stuff. I mean, there was, there were certain things we left on the table on purpose, if people are going through and you read the whole thing, you can see we didn't answer like everything, and that was on purpose, so we could pick them up in this and then further down the line. But we kind of missed it. We missed this world. We missed telling stories like this. There's a certain vibe to it. There's a certain way of doing that book that we don't really do with anything else. And Mike and I at that point, I worked with each other for I don't even know how many years it was, because I think he and I started talking about working with each other in like 2011. And the last issue of Nailbiter came out. So we did a couple things there. We did like Ninja Turtle, did Mouse Mobster, we did some like little stuff at Marvel. And then we did, Nailbiter. And that ended in, what was that, like March of 2017? So you're talking about like working with somebody for 6 years. And Mike, as much as Mike is great with Nailbiter and he likes doing horror, that dude wants to draw Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. He wants to go do superheroes. And, I was always having him draw people standing around in warehouses or fields, Like,
come on, can I put a dragon back? Let me put one dragon in the background. You can make it work with the story.
Let me tell you, anything weird happens in that book, that's partially because I was like, I have to give Mike something to do or he's going to kill me, right? Like, there's one issue, it's later in, I think it's like 16 or 17, where Warren, maybe 18, where Warren is like lying about where he was. He tells this whole elaborate story about how he went to hell and fought demons. We have this like splash page of him with a big sword, like Conan style. There's demons everywhere. Yeah. That was just for Mike, so Mike would have to draw. It wasn't, so every time something like that would come up, that's even why like that's where the whole thing came with the giant temple and all that stuff. It was just like giving Mike something else to draw, and it became part of the story, and it lended to the weirdness of the book, because we're always trying to be like, what's the what the fuck moment, what's the thing we can make you, and we're always trying to like one up each other, and then we're always trying to gross each other out, right? But so with that, Mike was kind of getting antsy. I was getting antsy. I was getting busy with DC. He was getting a lot of offers, and we were like, well, we're at this point where the story does technically end. Like the huge part of it, like the big part of it here will end. And there's like 2 or 3 other mysteries. We can save those for later. So that's why we ended it. But we kept talking about those mysteries, getting back to it and trying to figure some stuff out, trying to figure out things thematically we could do differently. And I remember, so I have a young daughter. And, when you have a young kid, like you give them baths and stuff and you don't want to get them soap in their eyes, right? It's like a whole thing. I'm sure you guys experienced that. You got soap in your eyes.
I literally just was giving a double child bath 10 minutes ago before we started. It was a nightmare. It was a true.
You sir, are amazing to do
That's
that.
why strong drink choice.
Yeah.
This is on the title page of my bath time as well.
Yes, dude. Yes. Yeah. So you start thinking about those things, and I was like, oh man, we should do a lot of stuff with messing with people's with eyes. And also my mother-in-law, you can't even talk about putting contacts in. She'll freak out. So I was like, oh, we gotta do stuff with people's eyes. And then we started getting this whole thing about, and this is in the first issue, about like, people say that whole thing about like the eyes are the window to your soul and all that stuff. So it's like, what does that even mean? And we started like getting into that, and then you know, Mike and I started just like talking about more and more ways. It's crazy. There's some stuff like what Mike's drawing in issue 7. That was all stuff we had talked about, 4 or 5 years ago. We were finally getting around to, and So yeah, man, we missed it. We missed it. We had more stuff we wanted to do, and I think Mike was able to go do some Marvel stuff for the last 3 years, and I obviously was doing a lot of stuff at DC. So then we came back around, like, let's just do, the book again for a little bit and see how many more crazy stories we can tell. And if we decide to wrap up and take another break, that might happen, and then come back around with another chapter. But yeah, man, we just missed that world, dude. It's fun telling scary stories.
Yeah. It's great. It feels that way reading the issue. It feels like you guys are just coming back, like getting back into a warm bath, popular metaphor. And it feels like there's an excitement there right from the get-go. And also there's so much more like murder interest in the world. Like in the times, even since the book, like just murder podcasts are like such a thing. And
that's why I have them. Yeah, that's why I had them talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's why those women at the beginning, they all talk about that, about how they're obsessed about it. And I was thinking about that with Serial and all that stuff. I mean, even when we were coming out, we had already been pretty deep into it. We had already done a lot of issues. And True Detective started coming out. Like it started coming out before we were released, but we had already done a lot of work on the book by then. It just hadn't been released yet. And you could feel the energy was there. I think it was good timing. There was Serial, there was Jinx. I don't know if you guys ever watched that on HBO. The Jinx. Yeah, that's an awesome one.
Yeah.
I love that one.
I mean, the ending.
Oh,
you can't beat the ending of the Jinx.
No, I love it. That's definitely a moment where you're like sitting there watching it, and that happens. You're like, this can't be real.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because so many other documentaries end with like sort of like, oh, it's unsolved or whatever, and that one ended with the ultimate, just like, oh, we got this.
Yeah,
dude.
we got him. That's like, dude, I love that one so much. Yeah, that's always disappointing. I don't like that one. When I'm watching a documentary, sometimes if I'm getting into a documentary, like I'm really getting into it, like a miniseries or something like that, I will stop and I will look up, have they solved this? Because it's like, it's super disappointing when you get to the ending and they're like, and we still don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, no, man, give me something. Give me even
anything.
A little bit.
Even if it's a lie, sort of a lie. Even if it's just a little conspiracy theory thing, I just need a little bit to go to bed on when it comes.
Yeah,
I just listened to this is a Wind of Change, this podcast about did the CIA write this song by the Scorpions made called Wind of Change back in the 80s. And it is such a great story. And then a build up, and then I wanted the end.
Oh, they don't give it to you?
They give you an ending, but it's just like I don't want to spoil too much, but they don't really give you.
It's definitely a rough situation, but yeah. So I mean, with all that, we could talk about crime documentaries all night long. Stuff. One time, I was getting ready for bed. I was already in bed, and it was one of those like true crime documentaries, right? Like just one of them. I can't remember what it was, like Forensic Files or something, right? And because there was a time where I was obsessed with all of those shows. And so I started watching it, but then I was like, I'm falling asleep. I'm like passing out during it. But I was interested in it. I was curious about it. I was like, oh, I'm curious what this case is and what's going on with it. And then I fell asleep. And then I couldn't remember the name of the episode. And I could never figure out what the episode was, which meant I could never figure out if they solved it in the end. Ooh. And then you go through the guide, and for whatever reason, like the guide didn't have the episode titles next to it. So I couldn't like just Google it. It took forever. And it was one of those things where it was like, it drove me crazy. So now I'm like, if I get hooked on one, I'm like, I have to finish this.
I have to solve this now.
I must know what's going to happen. But with Nailbiter stuff, we did a lot of research for that stuff too, just thinking about that. And we have an ending in mind for like the overall thing. Like that's part of it too. Like even though the first volume ended with a couple of things sort of ambiguous on purpose, we know the answers at least. And so we can keep on teasing things out and moving forward with stuff. I think that when we're finally done with the whole story, there'll be nothing will be ambiguous. I think everything will be answered. Maybe.
What is it like? I mean, given doing the research, for those who don't know the book, the main character, or the title character at least, Nailbiter, is a serial killer who chews off his victim's nails. So that kind of gives you a sense of the darkness we're dealing with the book. What's it like living in that as a writer?
Oh, well, I mean, I chew my nails like a crazy person. So,
and you kill people regularly, right?
Like a crazy person.
No, but I, all my life I've been told not to chew my nails, so it's sort of like already this thing of like, even in childhood, I remember it, Like, I remember one time I was at San Diego Comic-Con, dude, and I was walking out of the DC booth. I was pretty young. I think this happened when I was like, I say pretty young, but I probably was like 19, I was at the San Diego Comic-Con booth, and you know how that thing used to be like this huge monolith thing, and I was walking across it, and this dude, random stranger, so I was chewing my nail. Random stranger came up and ripped my hand out of my mouth. I always remember, walked up and was like,
God.
"Don't chew your nails," the whole thing. And I was like, "Fuck you," and like back and forth and stuff. And then he just like walked away. And I remember being like people are crazy about it as well, right? So, but I was on a panel once, an image panel, and we were talking about Nailbiter. I think it had just been, I think we were on year 2. Yeah, so we've been about a year into it, and we were talking about it. And I realized Scott Snyder, who was sitting next to me, he also chews his nails. And then Jamie McKelvey was sitting next to him, and he was like, "I also chew my nails." But yeah, like I think being in that headspace can be a little weird with him. I mean, he's just, it's interesting with Warren, if you want to really get into Warren stuff, because it's like we try to make him be really charismatic on purpose, but he's still a bad person, right? Like he's still a serial killer, and we try to get in that head. So it's really fascinating. A lot of these conversations. My wife actually, she went to school, she went to college, and she degrees in criminal behavior and criminal psychology and criminal justice. Whoa. And so she knows her shit. Like she knows it really well. And so she's read it, and she's very like, "You guys did a good job." Like, wow. Because you like him. Like you want to like Warren, even though this dude murders people. And it's all like how Ted Bundy was. People found Ted Bundy to be very charismatic and charming and stuff. And so a lot of times in our head, I just try to write him like that. I think being authentic, though, it's funny. Like Mike and I talk about this extensively, where like there are times where we will make him do things really messed up or say something really messed up on purpose, because we're hoping that somebody then will be like, "Oh, he's a serial killer. I shouldn't like this person," and then they still like him afterwards. So yeah, I don't know. Being in the head of that, it does go dark at times. You try to find the fun of it. You try to find the wackiness of it. You think about actually. So one of the things I found most helpful in writing Nailbiter was not only reading books about serial killers, reading interviews, and getting into stuff, and was actually listening to or reading interviews with actors who have played serial killers, because they really had to get into the head of someone to become them, right?
Yeah.
So like a really good one was Jack Nicholson. Like Jack Nicholson has all kinds of insight into the craziness of things, right? And listening to him talk about playing the Joker and where the Joker is coming from and what his thoughts were in playing the Joker, that stuff was really interesting and really helpful when it came to writing Warren. It was like getting into that mindset of like what those people are like. And so all that stuff just kind of helped with getting into Warren's head. Yeah, man, it does get dark at times, but there's also some fun there. I don't know, just having this person who doesn't really care about what they're saying or what they're doing, there's a kind of freedom there. I think that's why you look at a lot of these like amazing actors, and sometimes they play the most horrible human beings, and they play them really well, because I think there's a freedom there to it, and there's also a freedom, I think, to writing those kinds of characters.
I mean, on that note, in terms of the fun, like without spoiling anything about the first issue, it is a ton of fun. It's such a clear concept, particularly at the end, and gives it such a good reason for coming back as a title. But skirting those spoilers, skirting that idea, how did you think of it? Did you think of it as like a horror sequel? Were there touch points for you in terms of movies, TV shows, anything like that? What were you thinking about?
Well, I think that like all horror movies, I shouldn't say all horror, not all horror actually. Some of the best horror movies were kind of like genre mashups, but then the sequels were always action movies, right? Like I was watching Terminator the other night, and that first movie they call it a thriller, but that first movie is a horror movie. Yeah. Like it has all these tropes, the way it's filmed, the way it's shot, everything about it is like this horror movie. I'm not sure if you guys ever saw the movie The Guest. Yeah, The Guest. It's funny watching Terminator like now, having not watched it in a few years, but I see the similarities between that movie and something like how is the Terminator not just Michael Myers or Jason? Like there's so many similarities of like they just keep coming. They're somehow faster. They keep showing up.
Yeah.
right? Like there's so many. He's just a robot, but it's like there's so many similarities between them, and then the guest I think has similar things to it. But yeah, like Terminator 2, T2 is like super an action movie. It's not a horror movie anymore.
Yeah.
It's an action movie. And you look at Aliens. So we talked about that a lot. We were like, well, do we put way more action into this? Like, do we look at it from that perspective as well? And in the first issue, there isn't that much, but you'll see once we get further in. Issue 3 is mostly action, and then issue 4, I'll get in a little bit of spoilers to you guys. Issue 4 is they're in a safe house, and they're getting attacked. Like they're straight up like invaded with serial killers with giant machine guns shooting at them. So there's a lot more action kind of going on in this one, especially in the first few issues. Then it becomes once you get past issue 5 and then issue 6, it gets back into the groove of being a horror thing. But yeah, we talked a lot about sequels and looking at sequels and what worked, and I think obviously Scream 2 outlined out the rules of sequels, and so I looked at that. I love all the Scream movies. 3 is interesting because 3 is like the weird one because all the Hollywood stuff, but then at the same time, that one has the most hints of something supernatural happening, and is also the most like bloody horror one of them. I was watching that with my wife, and I remember thinking like, oh, 1 is this way, 2 has its issues, and then 3 is kind of like, whatever, because it's the Hollywood one. It's not the scary one or anything.
Yeah.
And her and I were watching it, and she's like, what are you talking about? Like, this one obviously has, like, all this kind of horror stuff going on. You're like, oh, yeah, the Hollywood plot's stupid, but the rest of the stuff is really interesting. But yeah, we looked into a lot of that stuff, dude. We went deep into looking at sequels, and I wanted to make sure, though, that this felt like something you could easily read this one having not read the first 30 issues. We paid a lot of attention to that, and I think that's one thing. When you look at Aliens and Alien, you look at Terminator 2 and Terminator, you don't have to have seen Terminator or Alien to know what's going on. I'm positive I saw Aliens before I saw Alien.
Me too. I would argue that most people are like, oh, you got to watch T2, you got to watch Aliens, and far fewer people are like, watch the first ones, because those are the ones that were like.
I'm always like, watch Alien Resurrection, watch T3, Rise of the Machine. That's where you start.
You're a real believer.
We'll get into that for a second. Like my wife was saying this the other night where she was like, I saw T2 first, and that to me is a Terminator movie. And she saw Terminator 1 later, and she was like, oh, I think this is kind of boring in comparison. And it's like, I think, but right now, we have my daughter, we have a baby here who's only 5 months old. So like my schedule's all over the place. So trying to find any time to watch television or just have 15-20 minute break at the end of the night is definitely a struggle. So what I did was I was like, I'm trying to pick something I can just put on at night that I don't feel like a dark or a commitment to, right? So it's not like I can watch Rick and Morty where I want to pay attention,
Yeah.
Or I'm going to watch something like a full movie, right? There's tons of movies that I want to watch where I'm like, I don't want to watch this in like 15-10 minute increments, it sucks. So I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch every single Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the beginning, from the beginning of his career. I'm going to watch all of them.
Man,
dude,
that's intense, dude.
So I've been doing it. And I just got through, so I got past Conan and Terminator and Commando. And then I watched Raw Deal this weekend. Man, Raw Deal is not a good movie.
You're about to hit. You're gonna hit the comedies soon, dude. That's gonna be tough.
So Raw Deal is not funny at all. There's no sense of humor into it. Like at least Commando, you're like,
yeah.
Commando is like a lot of fun and action, and there's stuff blowing up everywhere. And then occasionally they'll just have like something really weird happen, and there's all these crazy one-liners. Also written by Jeff Loeb, which I forgot until I was watching it.
Oh, that's right.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and see, I watch Raw Deal. Tonight is Predator, so I'm gonna start watching Predator. So that'll probably last like 2 or 3 days, right?
That's fun.
But you're right. I'm getting into the comedies, but the thing that scares me is not the comedies. Like I can deal with Kindergarten Cop. I actually like Kindergarten Cop. I think it's a good movie. I can deal with Twins. I haven't seen Junior since it came out. Right? I can deal with all these movies. I'm more worried about T3 and beyond.
Yeah.
Like T3, I've never seen any of the new ones. So Salvation, Genesis, whatever that one that's called right now is. Dark Fate. Yes.
People say that one's good. I haven't seen that. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard that was good too. I haven't seen any of them. I haven't seen I haven't seen Collateral. I haven't seen Aftermath. I've watched Expendables 1. I watched part of 2.
Well, you get it. You get it.
You get the
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. I can watch some of this stuff, but I haven't watched a lot of these other ones like The Last Stand and all those things. So I'm a little more worried about the end of this journry. Because I'm
to be honest, it's been difficult hearing you list all the movies. I can't even imagine.
But I'm in the zone right now of like the next few are what? Predator, Runaway Man, Total Recall. Like I'm in the good. Right now is going to be good for a while. These are all fun. I love Running Man. I love Total Recall. Actually, let me ask you this. So we're all here. Do you think Total Recall, is he dreaming? Is it all
coming out with the big questions?
Great question.
Yeah. Is he in recall? Because you get once you like think about he has to be. He has to be.
I think it's more fun to think that he is. I think.
Yeah,
so that's what I choose to believe.
He literally
that's my
says,
religion.
This is what I want. Like it'd be one thing, like he literally says, "This is what I want," and I want the woman to look like this, and they nail her look based on a dream he had, and they literally tell you exactly what the movie's gonna be, and then the movie happens.
I don't know. I think if you stick something that far up your nose, you would wake up. I don't care where you are or what's going on. That's fucking way too weird not to wake up from that.
I have a photo of you, Pete, that'll prove that wrong.
It's all in his head, man. It's all in his head. I don't know.
The total recall.
I'll reevaluate when I watch it this time. Anyway.
Yeah, we got to interview you again and just talk about that.
Yeah, we'll have you on next week to talk about Total Recall.
Total recall.
You do have a lot of other things going on, though. Nailbiter Returns is great. Definitely pick that up. I know Justin would kill us if we did not talk about Birthright, though.
Huge Birthright fan. I've talked about this book on this podcast so much. And every time I'm like, well, yes.
You're caught up? Do you want to know a spoiler for the next issue? What came out? 43 came out this week or last week, I think?
I mean, if you want to say it in front of people, yeah.
Oh, no. I just want to tell you something cool that's coming up. So,
I love
43... is the one I think was last week. I totally forgot to tweet about it. I'm not realizing it might have been this week. But 44, the entire issue is all splash pages.
Oh,
So
yeah!
There's like one 2-page spread in it, but there's all splash pages, and there's like a trick in how we do it. But it looks beautiful. Like Andre is killing it. It looks amazing.
It's one
of
my favorite
been
books.
Talking about this comic forever, and it's hilarious because he has to always recap it and bring it up to speed. And to recap that comic every time is really fun to listen to.
I think the premise is so good. So I always try to re-explain the premise when I'm like, next week, pick up the next issue of Birthright. So it's about this kid and then walk through the whole thing. Cause the premise is such a like hook.
Thanks, man. I love that book. I love writing. I feel like we've been a little bit on fire lately. Like we were kind of like, we were off schedule with a little bit. It was my fault. So we're off schedule, but it's one of those things where I want to make sure I don't like give an artist like, here's 5 pages, here's 1 page. I like to give them the whole script, but I also want to make sure it all works. And so for a minute there I was kind of like floundering with it, but in terms of getting it going. But then once we got to the end of 39, we got into 40 and we knew that they were going to go to the war, and we were doing that 2-page that one like 6-page spread, and all this stuff we were doing. Once we got into that, it was like it became so good to write again. And now we're in that zone too with 46 through 50. It's just really easy to write. But dude, I love writing that book. And Andre is crazy because like whatever I challenge him with, he will always like defeat it. Whatever crazy thing. Like,
he gets more detailed, I feel like, on the bigger stuff. He's like, well, I'll make this even harder on myself.
Yes, like he won't go easy on any of it. Like when you see 44 and it's all splash pages, it's bonkers. And then 45 has some pretty crazy stuff. Even deeper into that, it's just like, I don't know. It's nutty because you're just like, oh, this person is going to draw what I asked them to, and he's like my teammate. He knows stuff's coming too, right? That's a whole other thing. Like there's no surprise. He doesn't get like when the 6-page spread came. Like we told him about that. Him and I talked about it at dinner in New York. Like I don't even know, like 3 or 4 years ago. I was like, okay, eventually one day there's gonna be this thing, and he's like, I think I can do that. And this bonkers thing that he took like a month on. Like he definitely makes you want to be like, what is other crazy big thing I can have him like draw in this? He always wants that stuff. Did you see the issue with the werewolves? That was a few weeks ago or a few issues ago.
Yeah.
So the werewolves, that was because Andre is obsessed with werewolves. So I promised him, I'm like, dude, I promise you I'll put werewolves in this book.
I love how you're always you're throwing your artist a bone. You're just like, well, they want werewolves, so I'll make it happen.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to sit there and spend that much time drawing a page, I mean, it's funny because, like, for me, what is it, right? Like, for me, it's like splash page. Like, how long it takes, like, splash page type, werewolves. Here you go, right? And then that person spends a day or two staring at that one line, trying to, like, make that into a comic. So if it's that easy, I should 100% be like, what do you guys want to draw? So that's what I do with all the artists I work with. I'm just like, what do you want to draw? Like, what's a cool thing? What do you want to draw? What do you not want to draw? And it's interesting. Some have different takes. So some will say, I don't want to draw this. And the person is like, oh, I love drawing that. I definitely want to draw that. So it's good to find out what that stuff is. And then, yeah, why not give it to them? If I can find a place for werewolves and Birthright. Well, what's crazy is that actually became, you'll see eventually that werewolf thing becomes important later. It like actually influenced the story. And then it solved a story problem for much later, for like issue 48 and 49. It solved a story problem there that I was like, oh man, this is all coming together because Andre loves werewolves.
Is that, I mean, leaning into what the artists like and how the artists work, was that part of the reason that Birthright as a story expanded in scope so exponentially, or was that already always part of the plan? Because
you mean to do like 50 issues of it?
No. I mean more in terms of like Justin was talking about, it's such a snappy concept at the beginning, and clearly it's big fantasy and there's big action happening at the beginning. But spoilers if you're not caught up to anybody who's listening to this or watching this, but by this point of the run, Earth is basically destroyed by giant monsters. There's various warring factions and wizards fighting and all these huge things happening. I guess talk about that. Like, is that the sort of thing where
it
it's
did
like
start off, when you read the book in the beginning, it's like, it's a story about a family and then it's a dude interrogation room. Like, that's the majority of issue 1, is a dude interrogation room, and then it gets bigger and bigger to the point where, it's a 6-page spread of soldiers. There's in that spread, there's dragons fighting airplanes, like there's all kinds of stuff going on. This huge battle. And like, I mean, Andre definitely pushed it to where it was like, oh, the stuff I think we can do. Like, it was always intended to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but you never know too. You never know, like, something might not be successful and you're just like, oh no, I'm gonna wrap this up in 10 issues or 20 issues or whatever. But the fact that we knew, I don't remember when it was. I think we were around issue 20. We knew we were going to go all the way to 50. Me and Sean Makowitz, who's the editor on it. It's crazy. One thing I would say with this is weird is, like, my advice to people usually when they're breaking into comics or make comics is, like, never pitch a 50 issue like thing, Never go and be like, oh, never go to your editor and say, I have an idea for this 50 issue story. Like, never do that, like, especially if you haven't worked with them much. But with Skybound, I was doing Ghosted. We had talked about other stuff. And Makowitz and I were at WonderCon, walking around, bullshitting with each other. And we were at the Midtown booth at WonderCon. And we're like leaning up against these like big red racks that Midtown has, right, when they go to conventions. And we're just like bullshitting about comics. And he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like talking about different projects that were going on at the time. And we had been talking about Nailbiter. Like, he knew Nailbiter was something I was going to do or I wanted to do. And OCID hadn't started coming out yet. But he was like, what else do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I have this one thing, but like, nobody wants to hear about this. I was like, nobody wants to do this book. It's like this 50 issue thing. I don't know. I was like, honestly, I don't even have a title for it yet. I kind of have a title. I don't really have a pitch for it. Like, it isn't, it's as you know, it's not as easy. It's snappy, but it isn't like,
no, it's hard to say it all.
Yeah, it's not snakes on a plane. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just say it really quickly. So I was like, well, it's this whole thing, and I was like, all right. So I told him the whole thing. I was like, this is what I want to do with it. Here's my pitch. This is kind of the thing, and then this is what happens. And then like 2 weeks later, I got a call from him, and he's like, we want to do it. We want to do all of it. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, He's like, I need you to send me the pitch. I was like, I have a 1-pager I can send to you. Let me.
Wow.
You
reverse elevator pitched him.
Yeah. That's what happens. I think once you get to a certain point in your career, and you're like able to be in these conversations versus you going to a meeting, you don't even, there's like 3 people there, you've never met them before in their life, and you can already feel the vibe of like, they don't care about you, they have no time for you, and like one person there never speaks the entire time, right?
If
you need to go in, you have to like make this pitch, you need to be poppy and snappy and confident and kind of like bouncy in those conversations. If you don't, you're out. This was not that. This was just me and a guy like bullshitting about comics, and I'm like, well, here's what I'm thinking. And this happened a couple times. There's another book I want to do that one time him and I were having breakfast, and I was like, oh, I have this thing, I'm kind of figuring it out. Like I kind of know it. And he's like, what is it? And then I pitched it to him. He was like, you don't kind of know it. You just pitched the whole like first 6 issues. Like, how is that? I kind of know it. And I was like, well, I guess I know it. I'm not like there yet with it. I can't start writing it tomorrow. But with this, we actually went to Disneyland for a story meeting. So back, I think we were on like, man, I don't even know. So this was November of 2015. So we were a year into the book. We were like a year-ish in, and we'd already been working on stuff. So that means we were probably close to plotting closer to what was going to be issue 20, right? Like we knew, I think I'd probably written at least issue 15 by then, maybe 16. But we knew what was going on, but he didn't know the ending. He didn't know the whole second half. And so we had this conversation about like, well, what is the second half? Like, what is the whole thing? And I was like, well, instead of me just like going to the office, let's go someplace. And he's like, all right, let's go to Disneyland. So we went to Disneyland and we just talked the story while we were waiting in line for rides.
Way to take advantage.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing about that was when I also got the call that I was going to do the Haunted Mansion comic. I was waiting in line for Space Mountain when they called me. And they were like, oh, you want to do Haunted Mansion? I was like, sure, all right. And then we went to. Well, that was also like a dream come true. I've been trying to get that Haunted Mansion job for years. It like never came. I have friends that work at Disney, so I was always on them about doing Haunted Mansion, and it never came together. And then somebody from Marvel saw a picture of my office. You can't tell in this point of view, but there's like Haunted Mansion stuff in here. And they saw a picture of my office, and they're like, "Oh, Josh likes Haunted Mansion." And then he heard they were doing a Haunted Mansion comic. They finally, Marvel was finally going to do it, and so they told Axel at the time and somebody else like, "Oh, we should just have Josh do it and see what Disney says." And then they went to Disney and were like, "We're thinking about Josh Williamson." And Disney was like, "You're also thinking about Josh." Axel was like, that was the only time that ever happened. It was never like, oh.
Well, so they were, and you had also done Haunted Condo, Haunted Apartment, Haunted Duplex. So you were still sort of building up to
I was already there. Yeah, I was already there. Like I already done the groundwork for that job. So, it was that destined to be mine. But they, so he went over in line for Haunted Mansion, and I was like, all right, I'm going to tell you beat for beat the ending of this story. Like the last 10 issues. And I told him like, boom, 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 even to the last issue, even to the last like 5 pages, page turns, like this happens, this happens, this happens. I laid it out for him. He was like, yeah, we could do all that. We could do all that.
And everybody else was like, we're trying to ride the ride.
Yeah.
Please.
We were just like talking about that. I got to figure out a way of putting Haunted Mansion in the last issue now, I realize. I got to make a note of that. Post-it note here.
Just write that down.
We're part of the
last night, I figured out a thing for issue 49 last night right before bed, and my computer was off, and I was like, I don't want to restart it. So I grabbed a post-it note, and I wrote it down real quick. It's right here, so it's going to go with the other one.
Let's get Post-its to original computers. Oh, we got a request. I don't want to pimp you out, Justin, but we do have a request here in the comments from Eduardo Martinez. We should have Justin do a fast voice recap of the book. I assume he means Birthright, and have Joshua evaluate it.
Yeah. Okay. I've done this for many, many weeks. Right. Many, many months, that is. So the book Birthright, it's about this kid who's on a camping trip with his family, gets dragged into a fantasy world, and turns out he's the one. He's the true warrior. He rises up. He defeats the villain. Or does he? He ends up becoming an agent of the villain back to Earth, and he's back with his family. He's jacked barbarian dude, and they miss him, and he needs to reevaluate everything.
That's true. Yeah. Justin, let me ask you this. All right. So if you had to cast Mikey in a movie, Barbarian Mikey, is there
Jason Momoa.
I know. Everyone says Jason Momoa. I feel like that's so funny. I like Jason Momoa too. I'm just curious if like he's the right fit. I'm always like looking for that. Like, it's like when you watch Cabin in the Woods, nobody but the people at Marvel were like, that dude is Thor, right? Because they saw Cabin in the Woods. That's what made them decide he was going to be Thor, right? So I'm always looking for that. Who's that person?
I think Jason Momoa just looks like him. If I had to pick someone, and this is I like 90s Val Kilmer is what I imagine as him, like Mad Mardigan from Willow is. I think he is. But
what about like Zach Braff, but he works out a bunch?
Why not one of us if we work? If we're working out.
Yeah,
if we're working out, let's all do it.
Yeah.
I think it could work. Before we let you go, though, we should probably talk about Flash a little bit because you're
We can
finishing
talk about
up.
Flash. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
All right, thanks, Josh.
Let's talk about.
You're finishing up. Well, not finishing up. There's still a little while to go, but you're starting to finish up a epic run on the Flash. Huge long run. You're in the middle of the Paradox storyline. New issue came out today, so I think we could probably talk about that one. But
we can talk about whatever. I announced the finish line a couple weeks ago. But
yeah, you have this Paradox storyline, and then there's 2 more storylines after that.
Mm-hmm.
What's it been like planning this whole thing out? What's it been like trying to, and I think successfully putting your stamp on the Flash as a title?
I mean, it's super weird. Obviously, it's a weird thing because I've loved the Flash since I was a little kid, and I was coming this earlier today to be like, it's such an interesting thing. It's same thing with Birthright. It's same thing with Nailbiter. It's such a weird thing where you want something really bad, you fight for it, you push for it, and you have ups and downs, and then to be at the end of it, it's just a strange thing to look back at. Because like with Nailbiter, Nailbiter was rejected by multiple publishers. And it was something I wanted to do. I felt really strongly. I knew it. And that was part of why, like, sometimes there were publishers, they wanted to make changes to it that I didn't feel comfortable with, or I didn't like, or they didn't want Mike to draw it, which I was like, no, that's a non-starter. Like, of course Mike's drawing it. So there were things like that when I was able to look back at it and be like, man, I was right. Like with Nailbiter, like I feel very proud of that book, and same with Birthright. Birthright got rejected twice, and before Skybound, and to now look at it and be like 50 issues in, and we have like all this stuff for it. And I was actually showing this to somebody earlier today. Riley Rossmo and I were talking on the phone earlier, and I on video earlier, and I was showing him. All right, I'm gonna show you guys something here. I'm gonna show you a couple things real quick.
Yes.
Talking about this. So, all right, so this is like a regular size trade. So it's like the ghosted size trade, right?
Yeah.
And then here's the Nailbiter hardcover, so you can see how big this is, right? You get a good size sample here. So the foreign editions for Birthright.
Wow, that's awesome.
Like, can you see how huge that is?
That's
this thing is
massive.
A monster. This is a huge hardcover. Anyway, but that's the thing. Like, to look at something like this huge hardcover and be like, man, people did not want to do this book, and here we are doing it. It's like an
encyclopedia weight to it.
Yeah, it's really big. For a long time, I had no place to put it. I was like, I don't know what shelf is going to fit this.
Got to rebuild the shelves.
Yeah, I had to get new shelves. But so with Flash, it's the same thing. It's like I remember vividly 5 years ago talking to Scott Snyder, and he was like, "You should come back. You should come back to DC." And I was like, "No, I don't want to." And the only thing I'm interested in are these things and this kind of stuff. And being like, "Well, I really want to write Flash." And he was like, "You should tell him that you want to write Flash." And I remember being like, "They're never gonna get." But then being obsessed with it after that, like losing sleep over it, just being like, I really, really want to write the Flash. And then thinking about the ideas and the story and the stuff I wanted to do with Barry and working with the different members of the Flash family, and not even knowing then what was going to happen with Rebirth and that Wally was going to come back and all this stuff, and trying to find my own ways of bringing back some of the cast and trying to get some of the stuff I loved about the mythology back. And then to now be at the other end of that is just bonkers, dude. And like, I remember being in a room mapping stuff out. Like, I just told this story to somebody else a couple weeks ago, but there's a picture I have on my phone from October, I think, of 2000. It was October of 2016. So Rebirth had just started. We were already talking all this stuff about these big plans. And we had a summit in New York with a bunch of writers, and like Jim Lee was there and Bob Harris was there. And we started mapping out on the whiteboard all of these plans, like all the stuff we were going to do that early. So you got like Metal was on there, Doomsday Clock's on there. The Bat Wedding is on there, like all these different things like that early in, so, and up on the wall, it says Legion of Zoom up there. And I remember thinking about that and being like, this is how far back we've been planning some of this stuff out and trying to figure these things what we wanted to do, and things got moved around, and obviously things will change here and there, but planning this stuff out and being able to be a part of the universe. Like, I don't know if other books did this as much as I did, where it's like everything that's happening in the DC universe, I reflect it in some way. Like Leviathan destroying Argus is in the book. We reflect Metal. We reflect things that are going on Justice League, things that were happening in Batman, whatever was going on. I always tried to be like somehow reflective of it in some form or another. But that also caused me to have to change plans, move things around. But now to get to these last two stories, because like the Paradox stuff with Flash Age, it's kind of a long arc. It's almost like 8 issues long total. But then when you get to Legion of Zoom, which is only 2 issues long, which is really a prelude to Finish Line. And Finish Line is only 4 issues. That's really because I was able to put over all these issues, I was able to put all the pieces on the table that I needed to where I could finally tell that those last 2 big stories, because all the pieces are already there. I mean, issue 761 is like one giant fight scene. There's only like emotional stuff in it, but it's like it's a huge fight scene. That way I can do a lot more emotional stuff in 762 and kind of put a bow on everything. But yeah, man, it was a lot of planning, dude. A lot of talking to people, a lot of going down to Burbank and being in there with whiteboards and being like, well, I'm gonna do this and this and this. And then we would have like these arches, and be like, all right, this is gonna happen here. This emotional arc's gonna come over here. This is gonna be like this, and then them being like,
bring it
this here. I'm moving it this way. Well, I have 2 whiteboards in here. I have one right here and then one further back. One is for issues, one is for long-term planning and has like bigger stuff on it. But yeah, man,
that's what's so crazy.
Go ahead.
That's what's so crazy about the Flash in general is it always feels like the Back to the Future movies, where like you keep revisiting these same moments and like there's a new perspective and it's a Flash seeing a Flash or zoom.
Yeah,
zoom,
that's on
zoom.
purpose.
Yeah, no, and I just think it's such a hard needle to thread. I feel like to be like, okay, here's how I'm going to inject my version of the Flash or the story I want to tell into this hyper calculated like Jenga of a story. Oh, dude, and you have to like very carefully pull your piece out.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in there that's nutty, dude. Like there's stuff where we had that Trickster arc, and that Trickster arc didn't happen until issue 66. But we started planting seeds for that in the 20s. Like there's little things in there. Like the first time we mentioned Paradox, he was mentioned at all, like even in a passing thing, was back when the annual came out. And that annual came out in January of 2018. So that's 2 years ago. Like that we had someone kind of mention him. And then issue 50, he was there or mentioned, like you saw him in the shadows and stuff. But it's like, it is pretty bonkers that that's how the book has been, that it's like all this stuff. And even if you go back and look at Flash issue 9, there's a moment in there where he's basically like, you can see Thawne kind of run past him in the background and say something to him. And that's getting paid off right now. Like we're connecting back to that now. So you're talking about, 91 issues later, we'll come back to that moment. And in that, there's a moment where we have like a vision of the future where we showed all these different visuals. And those are all things that we paid off, which I still can't believe we paid off on all of them. There was a part of me, there was like 2 in there. I was like, that's never going to happen. And then we were able to pay off on them. There's this thing in comics, I don't know who said it best, but or who said this, but you kick the football down the field a little bit. Like sometimes you create story, you can kick the football down the field and then somebody else catches it later.
And that's where football came from, that quote.
That's where football came from, because somebody in comics came up with this phrase. Yeah. I've always wondered where the kicking part came in football. Anyway, like just being able to pay off all these big storylines that we've been building this entire time, dude. It's bonkers, dude. Like, I don't even know. And a lot of it's in my head. Like, there's documents for this stuff, but a lot of it, like the details of it, because it's funny, I'll turn in a script or I'll turn in a document that's like, you're talking about these documents are not that long. I don't write as much as some other people do. Like, I love James Tynion to death, but that guy, he's so funny. If he has to write the document when we're doing all these planning sessions, one thing I'm really happy when he writes documents because they're very detailed and they're great, but they're like 10, 20 pages long sometimes.
No, you're like,
and I'm like, dude, all right. So I'll end up writing, mine are like 2 or 3 pages long. So I'll give these stuff to the editors and they'll start asking questions. And I'll be like, oh, actually, and I'll have all these answers, this big, elaborate tapestry of story. But it's all up in here. Like, I kind of,
sure the editors love that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because they always questions they want to call me and ask me versus, yeah. But then no one wants to read anything either. That's a whole other thing. They want to read a 10-page, 20-page document, But yeah, man. Like it's a lot of planning, a lot of crazy stuff.
Well, for those who haven't read today's issue, again, a little bit of a spoiler here, but there's a new villain called Paradox who is initially trying to wipe out Barry Allen's timeline, going to various points and essentially eating the time, I guess is the simple way of putting it. And then he figures out a twist, which I won't spoil or anything like that. But based on the stuff you're saying and kind of touching on something that Justin said, it almost feels like Paradox as a villain is your way of dealing with the convoluted timeline of the Flash in a certain way.
Yes.
Is that
And
fair
the
to say?
criticism. Yeah, no, for sure. That's part of it, is the convolutedness of it, and then also some of the criticisms about him, because it's like, Barry, by messing with the timeline the way he did during Flashpoint, it causes so many problems that DC is still dealing with this day, and like the characters are dealing with this day, and it's not resolved. Like, there's a lot of stuff that just isn't resolved, and like we're getting there on some of it, but there's going to be bits and pieces that just aren't quite there yet. Like not there, and I needed a character to kind of smack him around a little bit because of it, and that's sort of what Paradox represents, is those things, and yeah, definitely trying to represent those ideas of how convoluted it all is, and that he could take advantage of that.
Yeah. I got a question here over on YouTube, actually, from the Scorch Main. Will Hunter return?
Not in my run.
Okay.
That's kind of a spoiler. I mean, he's definitely relevant, and there's stuff with him. There's connections to him that come around. But I didn't want to mess with Hunter too much unless Wally is around. And so that's a complicated question, because I'm not done writing Wally either. So you'll see. Give me like a month. Give me like a month without getting into spoilers. We can talk about some of that stuff. But no Hunter anymore within these issues.
Here's another question, actually, from YouTube. This might be another spoiler, but from Hellblazer on Twitter. He showed an artwork with Inertia in it for Finish Line. Last time we saw him, he got killed by the Rogues. Will we get a quick explanation of how he comes back?
Yes, I just wrote that today. So yes,
right.
I was writing Inertia stuff. I mean, I'm pretty much almost done. I basically have to write some dialogue for. I call them by the original numbering, so 99. I had to write some dialogue for 99, and then I have to write 101, but 101 is pretty much written. I've already done all the legwork for it. It would take me very little time, and then I'm done with that story. But yeah, I was writing Inertia dialogue today, and I was rereading that book. Actually, it's right here. This is the book where he died, the Final Crisis story. So I was rereading it today just so I made sure I got it right, and the stuff with him, and even little dialogue ticks that he has. But we'll definitely explain why he's in the story. It's a tricky thing. It's not. It may not be what people expect. But go ahead.
All I was going to say is I love that you have everything in arm's reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude. Right. Well, this is the way my office is set up. Like, there's more going this way, but if it's something I'm doing research on, like my book, like Image is here, Marvel is here, DC covers like going around this way, and then there's more stuff over there. But a lot of books if I'm in the middle of it. So there's a shelf. So I have like up here, I have a bunch of Flash books higher up that are like pretty much all the Flash books. But then I have duplicates right behind me here, like within arm's reach right here, for things I always look at. So it's like that. I think that Rogue's Revenge is probably one of the best Rogue stories. And so anytime I'm writing the Rogues or writing Hunter, or writing, like you said, Inertia, that one is a good one to kind of go back to and look at and kind of like get back into the heads of those characters. But then I also have like Chefs and Marks and a few others that are back here that I can kind of just reference. So Flash stuff's always right here, and then like Batman, Superman stuff is down here. But yeah, like that's part of why it's just within reach, so I can literally turn around and look. All right, cool.
Now,
gotta have the octopus arms.
Are you able to reach out to DC and just be like, "Hey, listen, I need to do some research, so can you send me these comics?" And
Yes, I can 100% do that, and I have done it many times.
That's how Pete became a DC
I definitely
writer.
take advantage of the stuff I can do. I get toys and comics and stuff. Like if it's a PDF, I just ask. I mean, there was one time I had to ask for a PDF of an issue of Eclipso that was from like the late 80s, and they were able to find it for me.
Wow.
Those ones are interesting because sometimes they're like the scans of the comic themselves.
Yeah,
because
they're all like crooked.
Yeah, like at the time they didn't always have. They weren't scanning everything in, all the files in the same way. So sometimes you might find stuff where it's like, this is the file. I asked them for Showcase 100 once, and they sent it to me, and it was the black and white inks and letters that had been colored, but it was the original files of the lettered ink pages. And then had the color one. I mean, I have a copy of 100 here, but it was one of those things where it was like in storage, and I'm like, just give it to me. I know you got to give it to me, right? I mean, now I would just use the unlimited account, like I'm sorry, the DC Universe account if I need anything, because the majority of it's on there. If I just need something real quick to kind of like read a quick issue of Flash or something just to get something right, it's pretty easy to get into. But yeah, dude, right? Doing the Flash the last 4 years has been, or 5 really, when you think about my obsession of writing it, has been a lot of fun. I mean, it is pretty crazy the stuff that we're coming up with Paradox and everything. It's going to be a wild ride, I think, going into the ending. There's a lot of crazy stuff happens. I mean, you can see we posted. I'm not sure I saw this, but we posted like a teaser promo of what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it has Inertia on there, has Max Mercury, and has Jesse Quick and a bunch of different villains. And yeah, just it's gonna be a lot of crazy stuff coming in the book.
Well, and on the other end of the spectrum, it's fed directly into the TV show, which has been kind of a crazy experience to witness, and I have to imagine a crazier experience for you.
Yeah, well, the first thing, there was like little stuff. I remember years ago they had My Name is a Street, and I remember just getting like, like I'm a street in Central City, And they actually, so I live in Portland, and they actually, whenever they do the shots of the city itself, that's Portland. Like at the very beginning when he runs across the bridge, I know what bridge that is. It's here in Portland, and I know where where they put Star Labs. Obviously, it's not a real Star Labs here in Portland that I know of, but that big building.
I'm canceling my trip.
But yeah, that building that's out there. But yeah, so when Godspeed was coming up, because I think Godspeed was the first like character that I knew they were going to use, and I got a text from somebody, and they had taken a picture, or I'm probably shouldn't be talking about this, but they basically had a picture of the costume, and they were like, they showed it to me, and I was like, cool cosplay, like sure. I've seen Steve Orlando one time saw this amazing cosplay at New York Comic Con, texted me a photo of it, and I was like, cool, looks good. And he's like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, this is gonna be on the show.
This is the cosplay.
This is the costume, which I was surprised because it looked like the costume, and then there was a couple other ones. I remember when they told me Bloodwork was coming, and I was really surprised by that. Bloodwork was a weird one because that was a character I created to be a Flash villain when I was like in elementary school. Because even then I was like obsessed with it, and I was like, oh, there's this character named Bloodwork. I did a drawing of him, everything, and then we were able to get him the book for like 4 issues. It was a short arc. And like Neil Gouge and Carmine, mostly Neil Gouge, but Carmine and Christian Duce, like they all kind of put time into working on him. I think even Jim Lee came in and added a couple things to the design before Neil Gouge actually drew it. But we had basically talked all this stuff out. So he was kind of this villain that was on the side, and I was like, cool, this villain that I created when I was a kid is in the book. Like I did it. Like, and that's where I thought I would end. Yeah. I thought that was it. And then I got this message from them saying like, oh, he's gonna be on the show, and I thought it'd be like Monster of the Week. But then he ended up being the villain for the first 8 episodes of the season. Like he was the big bad for the first half. So I was shocked by that. And there's this season in particular, there's been a lot of stuff that they've used this season. But that was never my goal. Like my goal wasn't really to get stuff on the show. I thought that there's so many Flash villains that they would not run out. But I mean, now what are they in? Like season 6 or something? Yeah, season 6.
Season 6.
Yeah.
Season 6, right? So it's like, they're eventually running out of villains. So if I can provide a few, which I'm glad I did provide a few. It is weird. I'm done now. That's one thing that's weird about being done now is that like if I had an idea for a Flash villain, like, well, too bad.
No, they're going to give you that late of the night call. It's going to be like, "Hello, Josh. We need we're on the TV set. We need a couple of villains right now. Hurry up."
Yeah, I'd be like, that's what I got to do. That was the way it was weird. The covers for the book we finished. I don't know how many months ago it was now. Maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago. We finished the covers for the book. At least my issues of it. And it's one of those things you get in the system where you're always like, and because it's a double ship book, every month we have to come up with ideas and story and submit like, here are ideas for cover ideas. And I've basically been doing that for like 4.5 years. Every month, here are cover ideas. And now we don't do it. And there is a weirdness to be like, because I haven't got to that point where like the last pages come in, like Howard hasn't drawn the last pages of issue 101 yet, 762, he hasn't drawn them. And there's other stuff too, but I haven't got to that point where like the last bits of art have come in. Like I haven't hit print, you know what I mean? I haven't sent the last notes off or anything.
Yeah.
But knowing that all the covers were done, I was like, oh man, this is weird. Like no more, like that's it.
It's senior year. You finish all your stuff.
I definitely had some senioritis back in like February, I think. I definitely had a little bit of, because I had already written the Paradox stuff, and so it was those last 6 issues. I think I wrote one of them pretty quickly, and then the rest kind of went slow. Now I'm back into where it's quick again, but now I'm at the end. Like, after today, I only have one more issue to write. So I definitely had some senioritis back then, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's been a great adventure. I'm really thankful for it, but I also feel like I'm just getting started still in some ways. I still have so many more stories I want to tell. I just finished this huge thing that I think I'm really privileged to be able to do. You know, I don't think many people get to do a story this big in comics, to be able to say, oh, I have this really crazy big idea that's going to be like many issues. I want to try it. And yeah, it's pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Definitely looking forward to the end of that. Before we let you go, just to run through everything we need to plug. So new issue of The Flash out today. Nailbiter Returns out next week from Image Comics. Birthright is ongoing. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else people should check out?
I also write Batman and Superman, and working on that. And then we're doing a lot of cool stuff with death metal. I think if you're a Flash fan, you should definitely check out some of the cool stuff that's going on in death metal. Yeah, man, Nailbiter. Yeah, definitely check out Nailbiter. Buy those trades if you're interested. You know, issue 1 will be out next week, but you can still pick up that first trade. I think it's still $9.99. So, you know, grab some Nailbiter, grab some Birthright, and
make the cocktail, live
you
large.
It. Yes.
There you go. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Great to talk to you, man.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Wow. Joshua Williamson, everybody. And you did finish that cocktail. How are you feeling now, Justin?
I feel great. When I had to speak quickly about Birthright, I was like, oh, shit. I'm a little drunk.
Finishing the pickle. Love it.
That pickle hold me down.
Excellent. All right, folks. Normally at this point of the show, we do a stack where we talk about some comics that come out this week, but we're going to do instead a huge stack podcast that's going to come out tomorrow, Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. We're going to talk about pretty much every comic that's coming out, probably vary it up a little bit going forward from here. But for the moment, as comics are coming back, we want to review everything for you guys. So we're going to have an extra long stack podcast coming out tomorrow.
It's too big.
It's a big stack.
Super stack. So that'll be coming out later. And instead, we're going to move to my favorite section, which is audience questions. And for that, we're going to go to you guys.
Let's see it. Let's hear it.
All right. Here's what we're going to do for audience questions. So if you are over on YouTube, just drop us a question in the comments. If you're here on Crowdcast, see a bunch of you have already done it. Drop a question and ask a question.
And Pete, if you have a question, you can just say it out loud into your microphone.
Yeah, or do that weird thing you do where you like kind of worm up your finger a little bit. So
worm it up.
Question.
Worm it up.
Why don't we start with the someone hit us up on Slack? Why don't we do that one first before I forget?
Oh, great. Okay, go for it, Pete. Read it up.
So someone on Slack had asked
someone. Don't specify what name or anything.
Oh man, do you want me to go? I tagged.
I'll look up the name. Do you want me to look up the question?
I know what the question is. It's who's your favorite doctor in comics? And I don't feel any obligation to say Dr. Zalben because that's a bullshit doctor for sure.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, I didn't even think of that, but now that's my answer.
This question is from Beercat PhD, who I believe is earning her PhD right now. It's why she couldn't be here. Yeah. And the question is about, yes, Pete has it correct. Your favorite comic book doctor, bonus points if it's a psychologist.
Ooh. So I'm going to have to go with the classic Beast is my favorite doctor.
Nice.
You know, love a smart, hairy dude who lives upside down. You know what I mean?
That's you. Do you,
Pete? Whenever I go on ZocDoc, that's the search terms that I put in so that I can find my perfect dermatologist.
Yeah.
I want a skin doctor who really lives upside down, really see into the crevices of my body. I'm gonna go for the bonus points and go with the psychologist and go with Doc Sampson. That's a doctor who doesn't seem like he's good at it, and it seems more concerned with being jacked.
Nice. Since we're doing a Stargirl podcast, I reread the first volume of JSA so that I could kind of like prep for the podcast. And I was like, well, now I got to read literally the rest of this run of JSA. So I've been really enjoying Dr. Midnight as a character.
Great character.
Just like a legitimate actual surgeon in the middle of a comic book, which normally it's like, I'm a doctor in the way that like I don't know. I say smart stuff sometimes. I could do literally anything all the time, but he is just very focused on, I do surgery on people. That is what I do.
And I only do
great.
it in total darkness.
Yeah.
Like
he's blind.
badass.
He's blind.
What was that?
Yeah.
There was like a creepy doctor that was in like X-Force or something. They did that like, oh God, what the hell was his name?
What you're talking about when they all had knives?
Yeah, the All Knives X Factor, and he like
Dr.
floated.
Nemesis?
Yeah, what's that?
Dr. Nemesis?
Yeah.
Isn't that who that is?
Yeah.
Is he a doctor or is he just called Dr. Nemesis? Is he a doctor the same way Dr. Doom is like, I don't know what's going on there?
Oh, fuck you. Dr. Doom is a doctor.
Why are you repping him? What is he? He's a podiatrist? What do you think is his expertise?
Excuse me. He's a very well-educated individual, Dr. Doom.
Okay. What is he a doctor of?
I don't know. I'm not his mom.
Ear, nose, and throat? Like he's his face on lock.
Great. Let's move over to a question here on Crowdcast from Pete's Punisher Slippers regarding the improvisational nature of Comic Book Club. I notice Pete will often replace a helpful yes ad with a belligerent fuck you to similar comedic effect. Pete, as the Pitts Ensemble Master of the Year for 2007, can you explain
shit.
when is the right time to go with fuck you instead of yes and? Apologies if this question is making Pete belligerent right now.
This is the biggest call out I've ever heard.
Oh my God, I love this question.
If I may, I, as an improv teacher, like to tell the students you have to learn all the rules before you can know when to break them. And there are times, the easiest way to get two people on the same page is agreement. But since the goal of our podcast is not support and,
that's
like
not
improv
accurate.
is
That's
different
not
from
true.
what we're doing.
Not true.
That could easily be the
what
goal of
we're
our
trying
podcast.
to do is a little different from an improv scene. So I like to kind of throw wrenches around and have some fun.
Yes.
And as much as you guys like to push, my giant red buttons, I like to fuck with you.
What are
as
you
well.
talking about? I'm only supporting you. I'm only yes-anding you.
That's not
true. Fuck you.
But yeah,
This
work?
explains
Did
the
it
past
work?
14 years.
yeah.
Pete, did I do it right when I said fuck you there?
You did do it right. Yeah. Yeah.
I hope to be
it's called
Pete's
upping the
ensemble,
stakes.
ensemble
upping the
man of the
stakes.
year 2020.
Amazing question. I'm going to go over here to YouTube. We got a bunch over there. Bandito740
I just-
says, yes,
I just
Pete.
want to ask, was that really the 2007? Was that really in there?
Yeah,
I
read that
don't think
word for word. Is that true? Were you 2007 Ensemble Master?
You,
It's in your
Ensemble
bio.
Member of the Year. Zelvin, you should know. You gave me that fucking award.
what?
You handed it to me on stage.
Alex,
Is that true?
I've never
Yes,
been given
your
an award by
signature
you.
is on my fucking plaque. It goes, Ali,
Dude.
you, fucking Katie.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I have no memory of that whatsoever.
Wow.
I
Now
believe it
that's the-
happened. But
That is now the biggest burn I've ever seen. We get back-to-back replacements. I love that it's in your bio, and you're like, "What is this?" Member of the year.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Sorry, Pete. I'll give you 2020 or something like that. Question. So back to the Bandito 740 question on the CBC Twitter. It asked if you guys started a podcast covering an older comic book show. What should it be? Any ideas yet? Cough the Cape. Cough. I'll say we have been furiously emailing about that. This came up on the live show last week, particularly with TV being pretty much dead at this point. There's an opportunity. I look at it as an opportunity to go back and look at an old show. So we have been bouncing around ideas. I don't think we've settled on anything yet, but I think we're going to do something, right?
Captain Bucky O'Hare, let's do it. Come on.
I don't know if that's the idea we're going to go with, but that's one of the ideas.
That yes, and that is one of the ideas. Bucky O'Hare, of course, the cartoon that Pete and I watched as children and somehow both remember, and that's all there is to really say.
I like to think of it as you and me were both at the same time, kind of like sitting there with a giant bowl of cereal watching Captain Bucky O'Hare, like we were long lost friends.
That we future friends. I'm not into cereal too much, but I get you.
Seriously, you didn't eat cereal as a kid?
I don't love. We had we
Would
weren't
you
allowed
wake up and make oatmeal? What the fuck?
eggs. We would have some eggs, or just go right to lunch. I'm a big because we didn't have sugar cereal, so we were eating like grape nuts, French toast, big pancakes.
We got a question here from First Hand Up Guy. When and why did comics make the shift from the panel grid to loose floating panels, and why did the gutters go from white to black? For the gutters white to black, I think you're reading things digitally on dark mode would be my guess there, because there's still white gutters on comic books, but
yes,
not all of them, but yeah.
But I honestly don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't know when the first person that broke the panel grid was. I'm not sure when that was, but it's certainly it feels like 90s probably things broke things up a lot more.
Yeah, but before that, even I don't remember reading a comic that I ever bought in a current comic that had a 9-panel grid. It had to be way before that.
Yeah. I don't know. Pete, do you know, you're the historian here?
Well, I mean, when you look at Fables, they famously kind of made some fun with the edges of the paneling and kind of did stuff like that. But, there's always been kind of like an artistic expression to comics. But sure, they tried for a while to kind of do a cookie cutter thing, but then they got more creative. I'm not sure when it first happened or who the first person to kind of put their stamp on that was, but
First Hand Up Guy in the comments here on Crowdcast says in 2000 everyone switched to black gutters. So it seems like you knew the answer to the question to that, or just testing us. Nat Townsend, who's fucking trolling us here with his questions and sending us little tests. Why? Oh, you said why?
If I had to guess why, I mean that's it makes the comic more moody and darker and sort of more immersive. I think the white panels feel it keeps it as art on the page, when the darker panel has you lean in.
To kind of get into that a little bit, it's also like when Apple designed its phone and iPads and stuff like that, they found a white iPad gives it more of a framing, or a black outline. They felt like what was the image was more drawing you in. And when you had kind of a white outline, it kept things at a distance. So you didn't really feel
that's
immersed
into
the subject matter. So they kind of took out the white to kind of submerge you into the comic book world. And they found that was more, it was better artistically to kind of get people into the comics.
Pete was the 2007 Genius member of the Genius Member of the Year. So in your face.
We got a question here on YouTube. This is a Stargirl spoiler. If you haven't seen the second episode, put on some earmuffs now. But this is from The Big. Hey, in the second episode of Stargirl, the open house high school scene, when Courtney was going through the crowd looking for Brainwave, we see Crusher, the gym guy. This is a big spoiler. We haven't talked about this in the podcast yet. Sportsmaster and his wife. Actually, I'm not going to skip this stuff. Talking about what a great athlete their daughter is, who is also standing there. So did we just get a cameo from Teen Titans Artemis?
Woo.
That maybe
that's cool. That's some sharp thing right there.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely again, I've seen the first 5 episodes, so I'm going to skirt spoilers here, but I think they've been pretty open about there's lots of legacy characters from the JSA who show up. There's a new generation of JSA heroes that are showing up. But Jeff Johns is running the show, and he is leaning as hard into the comic book nature of it as he possibly can. He's been very upfront about that. So entirely possible that, Artemis is going to show up. Other characters are going to show up. I don't think they're going to be afraid of this stuff. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go to another one over here on Crowdcast from Edward Dougherty. As a vertically challenged individual, can Pete identify more with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, who is humanish but tall, or Wicket the Ewok, who is clearly not human but very short, plus the beard now too?
That's a great question. Would
Man, they're
Wicket
coming
the
for you
Ewok-
today, Pete.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
Wicket the Ewok in a classic blue and yellow Wolverine costume make more sense to you
No,
than Hugh Jackman?
okay, all right. I was trying to explain this to my girlfriend. Okay, so like
That must have been a fun conversation.
oh, it was. So
I'm sure she was like, Pete, quick, please explain this to me. I have so many questions about your.
Did she run into the room? Was
with
she
Wolverine.
outside of the room and ran into the room? And she's like, "Hey, can you explain to me the difference between Wolverine and?"
You guys
No.
were making out, getting hot and heavy, and she was like, "Wait, Pete, please, I need you to tell me why do you think Wolverine needs to be short?"
No,
Before we go any further,
it was after you guys were berating me. She was like, what's the
that
deal? Like, seriously, Hugh Jackman is known as being a great actor. And I was like, I have no problem with his acting. He kind of looks like Wolverine. But one of the great things about Wolverine, like Puck, is his size. Okay. Everybody comments on his size in the comic book. It's a big part of who he is.
That's a little part about who he is.
And so the fact that they just took that away like nothing happened and just made him taller like he's supposed to be tall is upsetting. It's changing. It's like all of a sudden they made Cyclops a nice guy. People would be like, who is this fucking laser beam guy? This isn't the Cyclops that I know. Cyclops is supposed to be a fucking asshole. So it's one of those things where when you change a character, it can make you upset if it's not justified or not just like, well, listen, we don't want to fucking shoot every single scene of X-Men because Hugh Jackman, you know what I mean? So like size does matter. And
So that's a yes. That's a yes to the Wicket then?
yes, it is. Thank you.
oh, okay, great. All right, I'm glad we got back around to that.
Mhm.
Question
He already has
from
the
question from Brandon Medina on YouTube. Do you think that people are reading different comics than they were pre-pandemic? I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, comics didn't come out for a while. I certainly like every night to decompress. I've read something from my bookcase, which I have not been able to do or have done probably in years at this point. Just like going through all 10 volumes, well, the first 10 volumes of JSA has been such a pleasure to just go back and revisit that stuff. All the other stuff that I've been reading, just kind of like pulling out the stuff that we've been doing for the show. It's nice it feels less pressure, to go back and revisit that stuff. So I've been enjoying it personally.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like it's pulled me out of some comics, like just what's happening in the comic, or there's certain things where I was like, I don't want to fucking read about this shit right now. When it comes to like post-apocalyptic or whatever. So I think it does affect the reading habits. And also what's nice is because a lot of people have finished Netflix and stuff like that they're like, okay, what else is around? What else can I do? And, picking up old comics and going back to that. It's nice to kind of change things up a little bit and go back to some things that kind of maybe got you passionate or started you on this whole road,
I also think it's because we haven't had comics. I'm enjoying all comics basically. Like we read so many for the stack, obviously, that it's like, I feel like I'm much more open to taking a chance on a comic where I'm like, I wouldn't normally pick this up.
Yeah, absolutely. This is from Eduardo Martinez. We mentioned this earlier, but not a question, but a chance to shout out Beercat PhD for defending their dissertation, which they mentioned in the Slack. Hopefully they hear this when they listen later. Congratulations, Beercat PhD. On the actual PhD. That's awesome. And here's the actual question from Eduardo Martinez. Aside from Marvel and DC, are there particular publishers that you become especially attached to or excited about? If so, was there a particular strategy they pursued or niche they occupied that got you hooked? I'm wondering if any of you became especially big on Boom or Oni in the way some fans are of Marvel or DC.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Image's kind of like look and style, for a while it was like, to me, felt like very artistic focused, not your typical bulky built superhero. They focus more on trying to do thicker lines, different perspectives, more cartoony in nature, if you will. And that I was drawn to that just because we read so much Marvel and DC that it just really felt like a nice, refreshing break from all that. So I just would naturally be kind of drawn to more Image books because the stuff that they're putting out I'm rarely disappointed. So that to me was kind of like my kind of go-to in between.
Yeah, I mean,
what about you, Justin?
I would say Image as well. Just to piggyback on Pete, like the fact that it's all creator owned and their interesting premises in the book really feels like they really get to breathe. But the other answer I was going to say is back in the day, I really got into Ultraverse. That was a Malibu Comics sort of cohesive universe line before Marvel eventually took it over. And I really like that because it was so cohesive. It was so tight. The characters appearing in other books felt very deliberate. There were some just great titles there. And it really, a break from the continuity heavy Marvel and DC. It felt like a fresh place that were still telling great superhero stories.
Also, I think it's Arcana, if I'm pronouncing it right.
Archaia?
Or
Arcana. They're two different publishers.
They're both, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Archaia feels like we've read more books from Archaia than Arcana.
Well, there are a bunch of people that I knew who were trying to get comics made, like kind of got their break in that. So that was pretty cool because they were willing to, take gambles on people trying to kind of get their stuff out there. And it was great to see a lot of different artistic stuff being done. And I think like Mouse Guard was put out by them and stuff. So a lot of like really cool, interesting projects that you wouldn't normally see, kind of like a similar Image kind of vibe, but was put through them. So I really enjoyed a lot of that stuff. Mouse Guard,
yeah,
my favorites.
Yeah, that's Archaia. That was one of the ones that I was going to call out is like, you just know when you're getting an Archaia book, and now they're owned by Boom Studios, but you know there's a certain level of quality there that you're getting that I'm willing to pick something up based on that brand alone. Two things that I've talked about on the show before, and one just a couple of weeks ago, but just on the Marvel versus DC bent, back when I was a kid, I just needed to make a choice based on closet space because all my comics were in the closet to get rid of some of them. And I was like, I'll just sell all my DC comics. And I think part of the reason is like, they did not hit me the same way as Chris Claremont X-Men and the Avengers books when I was reading like Under Siege and everything like that, where it was like, oh shit, this matters. This is important. This is telling a story that is a different way and a different way emotional versus a lot of the Batman and Superman stuff and other comics that were happening at the time that just, at least for young Alex, felt very surface level to me. Probably if I went back, they would hit me a little bit differently, but that's that choice that I made there. Yes. Pete is, what's up, Pete?
This is not in my house. No, how did that feel? Like selling your soul for money? Was that fun? Did you enjoy that?
Wow.
Were you okay selling your children off?
I sold 600. I sold 600 DC comics for $90. And for me, that was the most money I had ever seen. And I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. Headed over to Mid Condition, the local comic book store, and spent all of that money on comics.
On DC Comics.
Get off your fucking high horse, Pete.
Yeah, but how many comics did you buy? Not 600. You got
just
fucking
one comic for $90. It was Spider-Man #1 by Todd McFarlane, and it was worth it. And it paid my way through college, as it did for everybody else.
That value has only increased.
Yeah. The other publisher, though, that I was going to say is like when Valiant relaunched in particular, like I would go to the bat for them because that was
you've been talking
superhero
about
comics that felt they were so clear, such crisp concepts, such great characters, amazing creators working on it across the board, and that they had a willingness to be like, here's the story. Now it's over after a certain number of issues. Now we're going to take a break and go on to the next thing. So good. So very into that as well, I think, as specifically answering that question. Cool. Let's jump over to YouTube because we have a bunch more stuff there. This is from Scott Carpenter. What trades should Marvel and DC make to make new content like OG X-Men for Teen Titans, Cyborg, Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, and someone as Nightwing? What do you think? What heroes should they trade?
Ooh,
To
trade
jazz
back
up-
and forth.
Yeah, trade back and forth. Like, who should go to DC? Who should go to Marvel? Who should they trade?
Hmm.
Wolverine and Batman. Trade Wolverine and Batman.
It doesn't
No
make any
take backs.
Take backs. Just fuck both publishers as hard as possible.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, it makes me want to think about what characters sort of belong in the other universe,
sense.
because it does sort of the style, like you could put Thor over in the DC universe, perhaps.
Yeah.
Very much sort of could work in that pantheon of characters.
I mean,
Really?
on the same note, this is such a weird specific thing, but like taking Hercules from the Marvel universe and transferring him over to the DC universe, mainly because whenever they bring up Hercules in any of the Wonder Woman comics, it always breaks my brain a little bit because it's like the actual mythological rapey Hercules. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this guy
Yeah.
at all.
But
But I
the fun
like
Brooklyn
Marvel.
Hercules.
Yeah, exactly. Bring
The
on the fun
drinking
guy.
and hanging out with Amadeus
Mhm.
Cho Hercules.
Yes, that's who I want. And who would I send over? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Come back.
Red Rover. I think Damian Wayne could exist well in the Marvel universe. He feels like a good sort of darker side Spider-Man character.
I could see him ending up on Champions or something like that. Everybody
Yeah.
would hate him, and he's kind of fill the same role as on Teen
I
Titans.
don't think that's possible. That just breaks my brain thinking about this.
Yeah, it's tough to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But it's like a comic book, but just slightly different. You know. You ever thought
It's
about
like a
that?
Secret War is what it is.
Question here from Alum918. What current comic writer do you think has lost their magic or is in desperate need of a home run series?
Whoa.
It was a little more negative than we usually go on the show, but guys have any thoughts? I'll throw one out just to start it off. James Robinson.
Oh,
That's what I was gonna say too.
I was
say
going
that
to say
too?
that, but I didn't want to because I thought
Well-
it would piss off.
Well, we've talked about it, and also he's talked about it in the
Mhm.
Starman omnibuses. He talks a lot about like how these books felt very magical, and he feels like his life has changed a lot, and nothing's the same for him. So,
Aw.
I think that's reflected in his work, but maybe there's a possible reset for him coming down the line.
Well, I'll mention something. I mean, the part of the reason this was top of mind for me is Jeff Johns brought him in to write on Stargirl and be part of the Stargirl writers' room because he felt like Starman is so important. His the groundwork that he laid for JSA was so important, and he's been kind of, I don't know what the expression is, like in the woods, I guess, wandering in the woods over, like he's been living in Vegas for the past couple of years and kind of writing comics, but not really writing comics. So felt like he'd be important. For stand-up guy comments, how about a comic about James Robinson's Washed Up, which he wrote for Image Comics? So I
Yeah.
get your joke, Matt.
Airboy was what it was, right?
But the thing that I'll mention, without like hyping it up too much, James Robinson wrote the 4th episode of Stargirl, and it is by far, of the first 5 episodes, the best episode of the show.
That's great. He's a great
So,
writer. I just think
he is.
like, it makes sense. Like when you're doing something creative, especially writing, you go through phases where it's like, oof, I don't have it right now.
Anybody else? No? No. Okay.
Come on.
He's saying no.
It's weird. It's weird shitting on somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Really? You seem to enjoy doing it in some capacities.
Yes, I know, but it's also somebody who has a dream job, so it's hard to be like, yo, that person sucks, you know, especially because I know I haven't read all of their stuff. So
question from Aris910 on YouTube. Why do you think creative teams, specifically writers, have had trouble making Green Arrow popular and in the spotlight for the last decade?
the TV show is just fire, and so it's fine. So it can just be on TV. That's why.
I think it's not having a take is part of the problem. Like, I think Green Arrow worked the best when it was like revolutionary Green Arrow. The guy who was like Occupy Wall Street Green Arrow, who was trying to take down the system. and they've gotten so convoluted with just people shooting arrows at each other and Black Canary and everything else. Like, it forgets the fact that he is this outsider.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the thing that makes him work.
I mean, someone in the comments says this as well. The last big take on Green Arrow was Kevin Smith's, right?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of really hit. Or was it? What was the one after that? Was Jock? Was he writing and drawing it?
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a good one too.
But I don't know. Yeah, I think embracing a little bit of the.
It was like a year one he was doing.
Yeah, embracing a little bit of the sort of lameness of being an archer, trying to be a do-gooder. I think that's where the character sort of center is, unless you want to make a radical change. What
makes Hawkeye so great on Marvel? They kind of really made fun of that, and like when Chris Samney Hawkeye really got popular.
Yeah.
This is a good idea. What do you think about this pitch? Alum918 says, imagine if Green Arrow had a TV show in the style of Mr. Robot.
That's cool.
That'd be interesting. I like that.
I love the idea of giving Green Arrow a TV show, like something that really.
Hey, we don't have time for your bullshit. We don't have time for your fucking bullshit because
we have all the time.
Arrow started this and it kept fucking
started.
Sorry, we got another question here. We got to go to Pete. I'm sorry, we ran out of time to hear whatever you were saying. This is from Kevin. What is your favorite comic sequel or spinoff? Also, would you rather do a quiz of TV to comics or comics to TV?
Ooh,
comics sequel spinoff, and also would you rather do a comics to TV or TV to comics quiz? I think the audience is setting up a quiz for us. I think
I'm here for it. I love that idea. I love a head-to-head quiz from with the three of us. Rather comics to TV or TV to comics. I mean, comics to TV is more fun, I think. Yeah. TV to comics is hard, probably. And what was the first part of the question, Alex?
Did you really just do that, Salvin?
What was the first part of your question, Alex?
Come on.
What is your favorite comic sequel or spin-off?
You're supposed to be moderating this shit, you fucking asshole. What are you doing?
All right, Alex.
It was a layup joke. It was a layup joke. I'm not going to repeat what it was for anybody listening to the podcast.
This is not.
You're a fucking ridiculous.
You put it right out there.
Alex, what was the first part of the question again?
I already said it. I've read it several times.
Oh, okay. So you're withholding it?
What is your favorite comic sequel or spinoff?
Great. Pete, what do you think?
I have no fucking idea. I'm fucking Selvin.
Comic sequel. I mean, this is sort of spinning off Starman, but the Shade series that there were two of them actually. Their 4-issue series that was excellent, and then they did a sequel series, James Robinson, years later that I think was 12 issues. That was actually very good. Maybe the last thing he's done that I really enjoyed, and something he did that felt like he was coming back.
Yeah. That's a good answer. I like that. This is from Stray Bullet. Man, we're getting really inside baseball here. Is First Stand Up Guy cooking baseball mitts this week? If yes, what cooking method does he suggest for cooking a tender mitt? And First Stand Up Guy responds, I didn't know you could respond to comments here on Crowdcast. Please go back to the YouTube video of the first quarantine show and take a screenshot of whatever you think looks like baseball gloves. It was, I think we could all agree, it was a big bucket full of baseball gloves.
Yeah.
I love that this really bothers Nat. It seems like he feels like his culinary expertise is being shamed by whatever mitts he was cooking. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm not saying we should invite him into the feed, especially after with the conversation going on in the comments here.
I don't want to invite him into the feed after that.
But if anything, he's braising these mitts with a long braise. I hope he will and then finish them in some.
I'm
to
sure
give him a little bit of crisp, maybe under the broiler, to give him a little bit of browning on top.
You can't just buy a glove and then put it on. You've got to braise it first. You know what I mean? Like
all the greats braised their gloves.
Yeah.
All the greats.
Great. We got another This is. I don't know if we can do all this. This is from First Hand Up Guy. Has anyone unlocked my secret quiz yet? I think the answer to that is no. First Hand Up Guy also says, "Can someone quickly explain the current Flash continuity?" Sure. Do you want to do that, Justin? Do you got that? I can do it if you want.
Yes, you know it better than I.
Sure. I mean, the short version, I don't know if this is covering everything you want to cover, but Barry Allen is the Flash again. The short version is he went through a whole thing that was kind of like the lanterns, the multicolored lanterns things, except with different types of forces, where there was a slow force, a strong force, anything that starts with an S force, that sort of thing. And he was teaming up with him. We're kind of past that now, though. I assume that's going to come back at some point. And right now there's a character called Paradox, who literally his whole thing, he's huge Jack Thanos style dude who hates the fact that Barry Allen has been consistently fucking up the timeline and is destroying all of the timelines so that there will be nothing. His idea, his ideal is there are no timelines whatsoever.
Well, and he literally feeds off paradoxes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has come down to Barry thinks the only person who could stop him is Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash. So he has recruited him to fight Paradox. That's the current issue that's out today. And then going forward, we're going to end in a couple of different storylines, one called Finish Line and another one called Legion of Zoom, which seems to be all the different Zooms coming together to fight all the different Flashes. And that's how Joshua Williamson.
That does what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Question from Hollywood. Oh, sorry. Eduardo Martinez says, "Sorry, Alex, but I prefer Justin's quick talking recaps. Must be the classical training."
Yeah. Maybe just you have to talk a little faster. That's what.
Okay. Yeah.
Like like the Flash. His whole thing is yes.
Not all of us got our doctorate at Micro Machines University, Justin.
And that guy was a great teacher, but really difficult person to be friends with.
Man, yeah, I miss.
We got a couple of quick questions here from Hollywood Homer. Favorite single issue story? I've talked about this a lot, and if you go back a couple of podcasts ago on the stack, I talked about this. But
cried and cried.
I did. Spider-Man Human Torch #3 by Dan Slott. Great story. So sad, so good, so powerful. I love it. You guys have a...
Yeah. Usagi Yojimbo does a lot of single issue kind of stuff.
I think it's mostly single issues.
Yeah, it's mostly. Lately, there's been some more stuff that has been kind of going. And also Jonah Hex and Darwin Cook did like a couple really great stuff with that. I can't remember the exact ones, but to me, like those are great comics where like, regardless of what's going on, you can kind of pick up those comics. You know exactly what you're going to get and they deliver every time. So
cool.
I'm going to shout out the issue of Sandman's The World, Sandman Ramadan, very good standalone issue. And there's an issue from Sandman The World's End bar where a man gets lost inside of cities. I can't remember what number it is. It's like 53 or something like that. And that is a great standalone issue of any comic. I also give it up for a lot of the issues of Ice Cream Man. Especially the Palindrome issue was a great standalone comic.
Cool. And two other logistical questions from Hollywood Homer. One of them is, why not do video for the other podcasts? I think the answer to that question is we're trying it out. When we can, I think we're doing it.
Yeah, this is all new.
Yeah.
We've never been on camera before, any of us.
No, this is great. How are you feeling? Is this... This is the
what the fuck?
Right? That is, I guess that's the camera.
Okay.
I think the bright lights of fame
don't
suit me.
Finger your camera.
Pete. Come on.
Gross,
is that any way for the Ensemble Man of the Year from 2007 to talk? That's not the ensemble.
Poor people watching this, they got to sit there and look at Zelbin's fucking finger like that. That's weird, man.
Yeah, you have to do it more deliberately like this.
What?
Listen, here's the thing.
Exactly the same way.
If Tom Green can do it, I can do it.
Wow. Alex got fingered.
But yeah, we're going to try to do it as frequently as possible. I think mostly it comes down to schedule more than anything else, right?
Yeah.
Well, and like a lot of times we're recording before something is ready to be talked about. So it's like, he smudged his little screen.
And the last one, another logistical question here from Hollywood Homer. Is the Patreon the only way to listen to the backlog of the podcast? Not exactly. For most of our podcasts, most of them are up on iTunes, Android, etc. For our main podcast, we've done so many episodes. iTunes actually limits the amount of episodes that you can put up. I don't remember the exact number, but we can't get all of them up there. So the answer is yes for that one. That one, we have a back catalog of we started recording it in 2011. So we have the back catalog there going through 2019. I know, it's crazy. Yeah. So we have all of that up there if you subscribe to the Patreon, and that's really the only way of getting it to you folks. I think the only other way, though I don't think everything there, is we actually do have a SoundCloud that when we were with Nerdist, they started, and a bunch of the older than iTunes podcasts are there, but it doesn't have everything. So there you go. Patreon.com/comicbook-hub.
We need to make transcripts of all those podcasts that we can just page through and really get into
them. Should we do a dramatic? I've been seeing a lot of people doing this since they've been in quarantine. Maybe we should do a dramatic reading of one of our 2012 podcasts or something.
Yo,
like that.
if we should find our oldest podcast and print out the dial, the exchange, transcribe it, and read it aloud.
Do you want to do that next week?
I definitely do. I think we should definitely do that.
Okay, absolutely.
I don't want to relive that.
Do you know what?
Well, you might learn something about yourself. Yeah, Pete, you need to learn. It's on you to learn something. You need to learn something.
Stop it.
Oh, that's a great point. Pete's Punisher Slippers. We should change roles. We can play each other.
Ooh, yeah.
Wow.
That makes it interesting. I want to be Zalbs.
Nice. I also want to be Zalbs.
I guess I'll be Zalbs. That's what we used to call him. Zalbs.
Yep. And that's it for your audience questions. We're going to move on to our next section, which is trivia. And for that, we're going to turn it over to Pete LePage.
Pete LePage. First have up guy.
Oh, man. It is.
You haven't explained what you're doing.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just upset that
somebody put your hand up in the comics.
Is
Pete's going to choose one of you. Pete's going to choose one of you, and one of you is going to win a gift card to Midtown Comics. Pete,
before we
got Hollywood Homer here.
But wait, before we jump into the trivia for Pete, I just have a quick trivia for Pete. How strong was your drink, Pete? Was it A, too strong, B, like very much too strong, or C, I need to take a nap right now? And D is Jennifer Garner.
I don't know what that means, but that was good. That's you. That was. I see what you're doing there. Is there? I wonder what the secret. Stop with the pointing. I really wish I was in the same place with you guys because I would fucking slap your fingers.
Wait, can I ask a question, Pete? Instead of us doing the finger pointing thing, would you rather that you're
sucking on a cheesesteak?
I knew it was coming.
Yes. I love
Justin,
that we got
don't
there.
laugh that hard every time.
It's very good. It gets me every time.
All right. So the problem is first hand up guy was first hand up, but he's. I mean,
Why don't you just choose Hollywood Homer? He said,
all right, let's choose Hollywood Homer.
Wow. Oh, that's not going to go well when it comes to justice in the world.
Yeah. All right. We're going with the Hollywood Homer.
There you go. Wow. It's your trivia section, Pete. You can choose whoever you want. You can bring in whoever you want. Hello.
Welcome, Hollywood Homer. Nice to have you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Big fan of the podcast. Listen for years. It's exciting.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thanks
for
listening.
Welcome. It's great to have you.
Thanks for coming on.
I don't know. The whole quarantine. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. So Pete's going to take it away with a couple of questions. He's going to ask you questions, and Pete, you want to explain the rest?
Yeah, so today's trivia is on topical comic news. I'll read you a question, listen to all 3 possible answers, get all 3 questions right. $25 will be yours. Midtown gift card that you can use online. All right, here we go. Question number 1. On June 23rd, they are celebrating the 80th anniversary of the first appearance of which Green Lantern? Is it A, Hal Jordan, B, Alan Scott, or C, Al Pacino? So it's either A or it's B.
Okay. B, right? Yeah.
B is correct. That's right. No need to overthink it. Alan Scott is correct. All right. Justin, I'm just realizing now how strong the drink is. Question number 2. Who will be joining Gail Simone's comic Birds of Prey, Sirens of Justice #1? Is it A, Catwoman, B, Harley Quinn, or C, Hilary Swank? So it's either A, don't pick it, or it's B.
B again? Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Nice.
Harley Quinn. All right. Last one. Who is writing DC's Batman the Smile Killer? Is it A, Greg Pak, B, Jeff Lemire, or C, Martin Donovan? So it's either A, or you could pick B and win $25.
Third question, third B.
That's right.
All B's, baby.
Jeff Lemire.
Yeah. Woo.
Thanks. Yeah.
Good work. All right. Shoot us an email at comicbookclublive@gmail.com with your name, address, and phone number. You are getting a $25 gift certificate to Midtown Comics to use online. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. Great for having you, man.
Thanks so much, Hollywood
Stay safe out there in quarantine and everything.
Yeah, keep it clean.
In sunny Hollywood, perhaps.
And
there we go. Yes.
Yeah. So, Justin, you are correct. It is Insomnia.
I knew I've been waiting a long time for you to finally get to Insomnia.
Oh,
Great.
really? Well, I finally
This
did.
is the secret Robin Williams movie that is your third answers. Pete, how many more Robin Williams movies do you have at this point?
Well, that's, you're going to have to wait and find out. And I just wanted to say to Nat, no offense, Nat, you've been on the show a bunch. We talk about you constantly. So that's why I wanted to go with
and you have to punish him for that fact?
No, I just feel like
I'm disgusted. You have ruined the sanctity of the trivia. And
I
I
guess maybe Pete's more of a second hand up guy.
I have. Hey, Zelvin, why don't you read out loud what you typed, you piece of shit? Don't tell me about what I read.
Listen, what happened to the comment section?
You're a fucking parent, you fucking asshole.
Wow,
what happened to the comment section from whoever runs the comic book club account for Crowdcast? We don't know who it is. That's a separate thing than what's happening on the show.
I don't know what sort of moonshine motor oil you were drinking, Pete, but you can't do that again. And let me be honest, I've already had this cocktail was strong.
Yeah. I'm fine with my beer. And at this point, we're going to wrap up our show. First of all, thank you so much to our amazing guest, Joshua Williamson, for being on the show. Remember, check out Nailbiter Returns when it drops on Image Comics next week. Also next week, we're going to have one of our fave guests here. Neil Clyde is going to be on the show.
Yeah.
Dark Horse Saver, so that's exciting. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but Star Guys, our Stargirl podcast, is currently running. We're putting out 2 episodes a week, one on Monday, one on Tuesday, right after it airs on the CW, so definitely subscribe and listen to that. Also, patreon.com/Comic Book Club to subscribe and get some sweet bonuses for this show. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen to the show. Comic Book Club live.com, socially at Comic Book Live, Facebook also Comic Book Club Live, and that's pretty much all the social stuff. We're doing this every week.
Yeah, we are.
Podcast is going up Wednesday, so you can check that out. But next week, Crowdcast, YouTube, we hope to see you here. We hope to see you in the feed. These have been blasts to do. Thank you all so much. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thanks,
Congrats,
everybody.
Beard Cat. See you next time.
Don't be late for it, 'cause their girlfriends can barely tolerate it. Coming back
That's so creepy. You have giant scissors up there.